Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kurt. Welcome back to the MindCrack server. You may be asking, Kurt, what are you doing staring at this blank stone wall when nobody else is on the server? Also, perhaps, why are you surrounded by 4 chests filled to the brim with blocks of ice and other miscellany of mischievous malevolence, and an ender chest? Well, I'm up to no good is what I'm up to no good. It is about 11:30 p.m. and this is where I have set up shop. For those of you who don't recognize, this is Vintage Beef's kind of seaside resort and camp and tiki lounge. He's basically converted this oceanfront jungle into a tropical paradise. That is his mansion, overseeing his minions. He's got some other settlements over there. But we are here to pay a debt. To pay back a debt, if you will. Way back, like 5 months ago in September, good old Beef stopped by the still under construction and yet to be completed missile silo of doom and destruction and evil incompletedness and kind of pranked. Actually did prank. That was a proper prank. Kind of a mild prank, one of my first pranks, but he filled it with random floating blocks of ice, pink sheep at the bottom, and dug millions and millions of little, well, maybe not millions, let's not give him too much credit, millions and millions of little tiny hidey holes all throughout the missile silo. And better late than never, I've decided to have a little bit of payback. Like I said, it is exactly, actually, 11:30 p.m. on a Friday night. Nobody's online. I've been coming onto the MindCrack server without recording, collecting all of these ice cubes, mostly at Etho's ice cube tray over at the spawn village. Thank you very much, Etho, for contributing to this prank, although I do take full responsibility to it. But today we are going to bring a little bit of the spirit of the floating block of ice over here to Vintage Beef. You may notice it's raining, but you can't hear it because I have particles off. But it's also good that it's raining because nothing's burning down. But I had to delay this prank a little bit because of the recent fire spread enabling. And yesterday, Beef said that he came on here just to make sure nothing was burning down. But I'm actually, since it is going to be nighttime, I'm going to add insult to injury and floating blocks of ice to injury. I'm going to sleep in Beef's bed. If I can. I cannot. Oh dear. Oh, there we go. I don't know if that was a lag or what, but... Alright, we've made it daytime, we've made it stop raining. The plan, you may be asking. I thought many things. I could do the standard practice of filling a house or buildings with ice or some other object. I could encapsulate his mansion or his buildings or his light tower in an ice cube. That's a brand new object that looked kind of like a tasty morsel to encapsulate in ice. But I feel like we need to be a little bit more bold. Yup. Boop. And what we're going to do is give him a floating block of ice. A single floating block of ice out of 4 full chests of ice cubes. I've measured, and his house, his mansion here, is actually almost exactly 30 blocks by 30 blocks. So, I am going to put right above his house a single floating block of ice that is 30 blocks by 30 blocks by 30 blocks tall. That doesn't seem like much, but I think once you see the finished product, you will be pleased at the scale of this operation. Oops. I've done the math. I am 99% confident in the fact that I have enough blocks to do this, enough, what's the word I'm looking for, ice blocks to do this. It's not going to be solid ice, unfortunately. That would be madness. You'd need hundreds of thousands of blocks for that almost. Maybe tens of thousands. But it is going to have some surprises on the inside. I am recording this and my voice with Fraps, so hopefully, please Fraps, be recording my voice. So I think I'm going to end up doing a kind of a time-lapse situation. I need to do a little bit of preparation here. Let me get up top, just so I don't have to keep running back and forth. Nobody wants to do that. That would be a pain. Nice roof, Beef. I'm glad that there aren't any torches up high here. But yeah, let me set up shop, and I'm probably going to be doing this in a fast-forward sequence. But yes, I've been working for many, many weeks collecting this ice. Today I made 5 trips back and forth between where I've been holding these blocks of ice in the spawn observatory and back and forth to here. Beef has set up a very convenient rail system that makes it very easy to get back and forth to here. So I'm going to organize myself, and you're going to see the completion and construction of my first official prank on the MindCrack server to Vintage Beef. Indeed.
Whoa, crazy, awesome times going on here. Floating block of ice, floating block of ice, you are so magical. Floating block of ice, floating block of ice, you are so magical. Floating block of ice, floating block of ice. Floating block of ice, floating block of ice. Floating block of ice, floating block of ice, you are so magical. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Magic floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Block of ice. You are so magical. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Magic floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Block of ice. You are so magical. Floating block.
All right, I'm back, guys, and as you can see, I have the bottom slab 30 by 30 all set up. Now imagine that in 3 dimensions. It's going to be a gigantic floating block of ice. But I need to organize my supplies here to get a little bit more organized, and we will continue with the time-lapse un momento. Mwahaha. Ice. Alright guys, I'm back. It's 12:45 a.m. It's been about an hour and 15 minutes since I started recording, and we've got a gigantic floating block of ice. The walls, except for the top, above Beef's mansion here, I must have underestimated because I still have like almost 2 full double chests filled with can't do that with ice, and these too. That kind of sucks. I could have made it a lot bigger, but this is taking a while. I am going to I'm going to try to figure out what to do on the inside. I will decide. I'll record it, but I'll decide if I need to include it with the video, or perhaps you'll just have to watch Vintage Beef's response video, which will be linked below in the doobly-doo, as is common with MindCrack pranks. So that's what's going to be happening there, but I have to come up with an idea of what to put on the inside, so I'm going to do that right now.
Floating block of ice, floating block of ice, you are so magical. Floating block of ice, floating block of ice. Floating block of ice, floating block of ice. Floating block of ice, floating block of ice, you are so magical. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Magic floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Block of ice. You are so magical. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Magic floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Block of ice. You are so magical. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. You are so magical. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. You are so magical. Awesome times going on here.
Alright guys, we are back. We have finished the gigantic, enormous floating block of ice of doom and destruction and revenge. I've also given Beef an ice skating rink instead of his infinity pool. An infinity pool. It's only an infinity pool when you have the toddlers over. But I've just discovered that you can indeed place signs on ice. So that is how I'm going to leave a sign, as we do with all of our pranks. Beef, it seems a cold front is approaching your tropical paradise. This sure will degrade the value of those timeshares. Alright, well, I have not made the sign big enough, so let's do that. You know what that old saying... How about you know that old saying? dot dot. Revenge is a dish best served. No! Revenge is a dish best served floating block of ice cold. Kurt. There we go. Our first prank. Whew. I have to clean up all of my stuff here, but I figured I would show you guys what I have. Obviously, you can see some gifts I gave piloting the gigantic floating block of ice. But yeah, here we go. As the sun rises in the east, we look to the west as the total eclipse of the moon sets. Check out Beef's reaction video in the description below. Click that link. Give both my video and his video a like if you like this kind of thing. Whew! Fun times, wouldn't you say? I'd say. Indeed. It's kind of spoiled by the clouds, but indeed.
Floating block of ice, floating block of ice, you are so magical. Floating block of ice, floating block of ice, you are so magical. Floating block of ice, floating block of ice. Floating block of ice, floating block of ice. Floating block of ice, floating block of ice, you are so magical. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Magic floating block of ice. Floating block of ice. Block of ice. You are so magical.